Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kabbalah of Adam. Sorry, I've been a little under the weather. My allergies are killing me. But we're going to do a little class tonight, if I can get through it. And we're going to dedicate this class and the merit of the Torah of this class to Russell Kirk's mother, Thelma Joyce Kirk. And may the merit of this Torah be with her. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of our fathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and that you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor. That is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all of our sins, and they should not bring separation between you and us. And may it be your will before you, our God and the God of our fathers, that you would awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you. And may you listen to our utterances and open our closed heart to the hidden study of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor, as aroma of sweet incense. And may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul, all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants through which you revealed your wisdom to the world shine. May their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us so we shall not stumble through our study. And by their merit enlighten our eyes in our learning, as stated by King David, the sweet singer of Israel. Open my eyes so that I will see wonders from your Torah, because from his mouth God gives wisdom and understanding. May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor for you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. We can call this class, the class 14 in the secret of the 7 laws. I wasn't going to put this class as a part of the secret of the 7 laws initially, but to keep continuity with next week, it just makes sense, because I was going to finish it up, but we really couldn't all meet. So although in Sanhedrin, this is in 58, this is right here in the piece about the 7 laws of Noah. And when you're reading in this, in the Torah, and it uses the term Noahite, you must understand that when it's speaking of a Noahite, it's not speaking of someone who has accepted the 7 laws and does them. It's really talking about just general people, all right? And so the word is Sfeidinim. So it means there's 2 sides. There's this Noahite and there's this Noahite. And you have to know, if they're talking about the children of Israel when they were Noahites, before the giving of the Torah, they were under the Noahide laws. When it's talking about this Noahite, or this Noahites, they're still under the Noahide laws, but they're not keeping them. All right? So you always see this dynamic going on. But we're going to study a piece today. If you have Sanhedrin, this is book number 48. And you have to realize it doesn't matter what you're reading, whether you're reading the Talmud or whether you're reading the Tanakh or the Chumash or whatever. Everything is about Adam. There's nothing that is not about Adam. Just it's wearing a different garment when it's talking, okay? And so this piece, talking about whether a Noahite can marry their kindred, because we know there's several scenarios where this happened to populate the earth. And so it's going into some of these pieces. And so what I wanted to do is go through this, and we'll lay a little of the Kabbalah on it so you can kind of see it's never what it says, it's what are they saying? What's it really saying? And this leads up to our piece that we talk about in the secret of the 7 laws on 59A1 is, can a Noahite idolater study the Torah? Okay? And it's a really big piece, and this is where Rabbi Meir comes in, and he lays the 4D on top, as he always does. Rebbe Meir always lays the sod, okay, the secret of the matter. But we're going to back up, and there's the piece we're going to really delve into. It's one of the shortest statements in this piece. And we look through the Ben Ish Hai, and this is the only thing that he remarks on. And it's really going to blow you away, because of all the things that he could have taught on or revealed something on, he picks this verse. So let's get to it. And if you want, let's start today in Sanhedrin 58b1. If you do not have the Talmud, don't worry, I will read it for you. And we're going to go through some of the notes and the bottom. And then I have a piece on the Ben Ish Hai that we're going to talk about. And we're going to end up talking about the end of one's life. All right? And our beloved brother Russell Kirk is dealing with this as we speak with his mother. And everything about this life is headed to the end of it. And hopefully after tonight, after I explain what's going on with our life and our burial, it will give you some great comfort to know what is really the secret of the matter. Okay? So let's get right into it. This piece is talking about can the kindred have kindred relationships, okay? And so they bring a view, and on 58b1, the Gemara challenges Rabbi Eliezer's view that a Noahite is permitted to marry his father's sister. All right, come learn a proof contrary to Rabbi Eliezer's ruling. Amram took Jochebed, his aunt, for a wife. Does this not mean that she was his aunt, related maternally to his father, yet Amram married her? The Gemara answers, no. She was his aunt, related only paternally to his father, and such an aunt is permitted to marry a Noahite. The Gemara challenges Rabbi Kivas' view that there is no prohibition for a Noahite to marry his own sister. Come learn a proof contrary to Rabbi Kivas' ruling. The verse cites Abraham stated to Abimelech about his marriage to Sarah. And yet, indeed, she is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. So we know the code word in Torah for sister is the Shekhinah. So Abraham is not lying at all. He's saying she's the Shekhinah. Who is Abraham? This is Adam speaking. Who is Sarah? This is Hava. They are saying something higher than he understands. But apparently indicated that he would have not married Sarah if she had been his maternal sister. This implies that she is the daughter of one's mother is prohibited to a Noahite. The Gemara answers, do you think this is difficult? Was Sarah really the sister of Abraham? She was actually his niece, the daughter of his brother. And since this is so, there is no difference if Abraham's brother was related to him paternally or maternally, through his mother or through his father. Either way, Sarah was permitted. Therefore, Abraham concluded statement to Abimelech does not allude to any prohibitions. Rather, this is what Abraham was saying to him there. I have kindred relations with her from my father's side, but not from my mother's side. Why? Because in Kabbalah, the father is the foundation of the daughter, right? So you have Abba is the foundation of the Shekhinah, and you have Ima is the foundation of Zeranpin. So he's making the connection saying, look, this is from Havayah. She's a Shekhinah. I'm Adam. This is the one he gave me, right? So this is what they're really saying in the midst of all this. The Gemara challenges Rabbi Kivas' view that a Noahite, this is 58b2, turn the page. The Gemara challenges Rabbi Kivas' view that a Noahite is permitted to marry his sister. Come and learn. A proof contrary to Rabbi Kiva from this brisa. Why did Adam not marry his daughter? See, they jumped right back into Adam. Why did Adam not marry his daughter? Because the father's foundation of the daughter. He did it so that Cain could marry her, his sister. See, we have the same thing going on. Now, what about Abel? We know the story that sister, or that Adam's daughter, is actually Abel's sister, and it's Cain's sister. And we know that Abel had two sisters, and Cain had one sister, and he wanted more women than he did, and that's one of the reasons Cain killed Abel. Okay? So there's some underlying story going on here, but they're brushing over the top of that. Because it is stated, for I said, the world was built with chesed, kindness. That's the father's side. This implies, however, that it was not for this reason that it would be prohibited for Cain to marry his sister. We should therefore infer that a Noahite is prohibited to his sister. Now, the Gemara defends Rabbi Akiva. Once it was permitted for Cain to marry his sister, it was permitted for any Noahite to marry his sister. Because they're calling Noahite Cain. Well, Cain's not from the good side, right? The Gemara states another implication about the daughter born to Adam. Rav Huna said, a Kuthan is permitted to marry his daughter. And if you will ask, why then did Adam not marry his daughter? The answer is so that Cain can marry his sister. Because it is stated the world will be built with kindness. The Gemara presents a conflicting version of Rav Huna's statement. There are those who have stated the different ruling. Rav Huna said a Kuthian is prohibited to marry his daughter. You should know that this is so because Adam did not marry his daughter. So on the good side, it was then there was this prohibition because Adam didn't do it, is what his proof is. Apparently, this is because she was prohibited to him. The proof is rejected. But this is not so. This is the reason that Adam did not marry his daughter so that Cain could marry his sister, because the verse states the world was built on kindness. Now, the Rishonim say there's various reasons why it would be advantageous for Adam to marry his daughter, according to Tosfos. If Adam could marry his daughter, this is note 12, if anybody wants to read it along, Eve would have died immediately for partaking the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. From the fact that her punishment was postponed, it is evident that Adam would not have been allowed to marry his daughter. Therefore, God delayed her punishment so that Adam would not have to live alone. The Gemara now asks why Adam could not have married his daughter so that justice could have been served without delay. Note 13, Psalm 89:3 says, this alludes to the fact that the world was built on kindness. This alludes to the fact that Adam was commanded to act kindly to his son Cain by allowing him to marry his sister. Thus, Adam was prohibited against marrying his daughter, while Cain was permitted to marry her to begin populating the world, according to Rashi. But it seems that it was only a special dispensation to Cain that he would be permitted to marry his sister, for otherwise he would have not had anyone else to marry, but we know. But for future Noahites, it is permitted. The Brisa indicates then that a Noahite is permitted to marry his sister in contradiction to Rabbi Akiva's view. Rashi adds that the verse prohibiting an Israelite to marry his sister according to the Israelite law can be better understood as a result of the Brisa. For the verse states that to marry one's sister in Leviticus 20:17 is a disgrace. But this term can be expounded to mean kindness. in the following way. The fact that God permitted Cain to marry his sister was a special act of kindness toward him. That is, once God permitted Cain to marry his sister, all future Noahites are also permitted to do so. Only Israelites were later prohibited after the Torah was given at Sinai. Now, let's continue back into the, it all had to do with Hava's death. That was the thing. Having discussed the laws of incest that apply to a Noahite, the Gemara now states what happened if he became a slave. So they're gonna flip sides real quick. Rav Chisda said that a Canaanite slave is prohibited to marry his mother and he's prohibited to marry his daughter for the following reason, and he has left the status of a Kuthian, but he has not come into the status of an Israelite. The Gemara presents another Noahide prohibition concerning a slave. When Rav Dimi came to Babylon, he said in the name of Rabbi Eleazar, who said in the name of Rav Hanina, a Noahite designated a slave woman for his slave, and then cohabited with her himself. He is executed for this act. Now Rashi says, according to this explains that this act is not prohibited under the Noahide commandments against adultery, because a slave woman is not considered to be actually married to a slave. Rather, if the master cohabitates with a slave woman, he has violated the Noahide commandment of theft by stealing a slave woman from a slave, according to Rambam, who quotes Malachim 9.8. Though understand that the owner is guilty of adultery if he cohabitates with a slave woman. So we went from adultery to theft, right? Now, let's turn the page. It's going to start getting interesting. The Gemara inquires, from when is a slave woman considered designated slave subject for this prohibition? The Gemara replies, Rav Nachman said, from the time that the women in town call her the girl of so-and-so and so-and-so, the slave. The Gemara further inquires, when does her permitted status begin? The Gemara answers, Rav Huna said, from when she uncovers her head in the marketplace. Okay? So she's being flusy. All right? That's the slave woman. That's the Lilith aspect. All right? She's being a little promiscuous. That's what it's talking about. The Gemara presents another ruling. Rav Eleazar said in the name of Rav Hanina, if a Noahite cohabits with his wife in an unnatural way, he is liable. For it is stated, he shall cling to his wife. That implies, but he should not cohabitate with her in an unnatural way. The Gemara refutes this ruling. Rav said, is there any act for which an Israelite is not liable and a Kuthian is liable? Rather, therefore it derives another ruling from the verse. Rather, Rava said, if a Noahite cohabitates with his wife of his fellow in an unnatural way, he is exempt from liability. What is the reason for this leniency? Because the prohibition against adultery is derived from the verse where Adam was commanded to cling to his wife, which implies, but not to the wife of his fellow. Here's our Nakash and our whole Lilith story intertwined. But the verb used for the prohibition is he shall cling, which implies that one is not liable for cohabitating in an unnatural way with another person's wife, because we have the Nakash in our deal. Another law. Rav Hanina said, if an idolater strikes an Israelite, he is liable for death. All right? So if a non-Jew hits a Jew, he's liable for death, because the two eyes are yuds and the nose is the vav. Okay? So yud is 10, nose vav is 26. That's the Havayah. You're striking the face of Havayah. Also, the two no holes can be, if you hit somebody in the nose, the two no holes are yuds and the nose is the vav, 26. 26, 26, Shem Ben 52, striking the Shekhinah. Now, so what is hitting a Jew? On the Peshat, physical. But what's the extra where they're going to get into it? Rav Kanina said, if one slaps the jaw of an Israelite, it is tantamount to slapping the jaw of the divine. And I just told you why. For it is stated, the ensnarement of a man destroys holiness. But this verse can also be expounded to mean one who strikes a man is like one who strikes Adam is like one who strikes the jaw of the Holy One. So guess where they're going with this? The Gemara offers a mnemonic for the three rulings of Reish Lakish will state of the last concerning Noahide law. Now, there's three words here. Magbia, Avdo, Shabbos. Mem, Aleph, Shin. It's a mnemonic, it says. Remember that Esau said, I am but mas. There it is. So Esau is going to strike Jacob. This is part of this entire piece. The Gemara represents the first ruling. Reish Lakish said, if one raises his hand against his fellow, even though he did not actually, if you raise your hand, even though you didn't actually strike him, he is still called wicked. For it is stated, he said, the wicked one, why will you strike your fellow? Because he's already thought about it long enough to do it. The verse is not stated in the past tense, why did you strike? Rather, it was written in the future tense, why will you strike? This teaches that even though he did not strike him yet, he is still called wicked, because this is Jacob and Esau. So if you look in in note 28, and we've gone over this before in Ezekiel 34:31, the term here, Adam, man, is the people of Israel. So how do people strike Israel? The Gemara elaborates further. This is Sanhedrin 58b4. The Gemara elaborates further upon the offense of raising one's hand against a person. And they're talking non-Jew. I mean, it can be Jew to Jew, it can be non-Jew to non-Jew, but it's specifically talking about non-Jew to Jew. Zerah said in the name of Rabbi, he is called a sinner. For it is stated with regard to the children, and they're going to give you the Jew to Jew here, for with the children of Eli the Cohen, where it says, if not, I will take it by force. So if you look down in 31, and 1 Samuel 2:16, Eli's children would ask a person offering sacrifices to give them some of its meat, threatening to take it by force if he did not agree. So if you make a threatening verbalization against a Jew, that is the exact same thing as raising one's hand, and it's the exact same thing of striking God, because you're threatening Adam. And it is written about them in the next verse, the sin of the lads was great. We see thus that they were called sinners for this threat of force. And since a verbal threat to use force is similar to raising one's hand, it's the same thing. As a show of force, we can conclude that one who raised his hand is also called a sinner. Rav Huna said, his hand should be cut off, for it is stated, a raised arm shall be broken in Job. Rav Huna says, cut off the hand of someone who constantly striking other people. The Gemara cites one last statement about one who raises the hand of another person. Rabbi Eliezer said, he has no remedy other than burial. We go right into burial. So we're going from what happened in the garden to the fight of Cain and Abel, through the fight with Jacob and Esau. It's the fight's still going on. There is no past, no future, no present. It is in God's now. The garden is happening every single week, every single moment of every single day. Jacob and Esau are still wrestling on the sulam, on the ladder. They've never stopped. They won't stop till Mashiach. That's the whole point. The Gemara cites one last statement, striking another person. Rabbi Eliezer says, there's no remedy other than burial. For it is stated, and this is the piece we're going to go over in the Gemara. Of all this we're reading, this is where the Ben Ish Hai goes straight to it. For it is stated, the mighty men of the earth, Job 22:8. The term here can be translated as arm, mighty man and arm. Thus, the verse indicates that someone who raises his arms deserves to be killed and buried in the earth. The Gemara presents another lesson from the verse. Rabbi Eliezer said, and here's what we're going to go over in depth. The land ownership was given only to mighty people, for it is stated, to the mighty man is the earth. So this is the Nukva, the Shekhinah, the whole thing this is going to be the other side. The Gemara presents a second statement made by Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said, why is it written? One who works his land will be satisfied with bread. Now, the Hofetz Haim says, when you see the word works, and Adam was to work the ground, here it is. Works is the study of Torah. Working the ground means the study of Torah. The land is the Nukva. The land is the Malchut. The land is the Shekhinah. So if you're not doing the Torah and you're coming against the Jews, you're striking the Shekhinah. That person is a sinner. Obviously, they're not doing Torah. It teaches that if a person makes himself a servant to the land, to the Shekhinah, to the Torah, he will be satisfied with bread, lechem, chesed, because his crop will be successful. You have to have seed to be a crop. But if he does not make himself a servant, he will not be satisfied with bread. The Gemara represents a third statement by Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said, an idolater who ceases working for an entire day is Haim Misa, liable for death. For it is stated, day and night they shall not cease. And the master said that a warning of theirs is sufficient to subject them to their death. The Gemara elaborates. Ravina said, this is even so if he ceased work on Monday. Reish Lakish says this challenge, but let it be counted along with the 7 Noahide commandments. What? Working the land, studying the Torah. So they're debating this. The Gemara answers, only negative prohibitions for which one must sit and not do are accounted among the Noahide commandments. But positive commandments to get up and do something, they're not counted. Just because they're not counted doesn't mean you don't get up and do them. And then they get into the big discussion. Can an idolater study Torah? Right? The Gemara objects to this answer. But the requirement of civil law is a positive commandment to get up and act. And yet it is counted among the Noahide commandments. The Gemara answers, these requirements comprise both positive commandment to get up and do and act, ensure justice is served, and negative commandments to sit and do not act, to refrain from perverting justice. Well, how are you judged? By the Torah. The Gemara states another law applying to an idolater. Rabbi Yochanan said, an idolater who engrosses himself in Torah is hayamisa, liable for death. The mas. Why? Striking a Jew, stealing from Adam, illicit unions. It's getting the klipa on the Shekhinah. It's the zuhama of the nakash. That's why they had to go through this whole thing about can the outside touch the inside? Can this marry that? Can it study that? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because everything in this world is about the next, the end, the death. And it goes on. For it stated, Moses commanded us the Torah as it is an inheritance. So one side's going to say, well, no, you can't, right? This implies for us as an inheritance, but not for them, the idolaters. The Gemara asks, but let this prohibition be counted along with the 7 Noahide commandments? See, they never put it in there. The Gemara answered the prohibition for an idolater to study Torah as already concluded among the Noahide commandments, for they are all in with the murder, and they're saying it's already covered. The one who says that the verse should be understood literally to be calling the Torah an inheritance prohibits a Noahide against studying Torah. So this Noahide is an idolater. That's why everybody has trouble paskening or making a judgment, our belief system. If they're telling you cannot study Torah, they're all paskening that you are an idolater, and you're not. Because he is stealing the Torah and studying it. The one who says that verse should be expounded on by calling the Torah betrothed to Israelites should say, the idolater's judgment is like the one who commits adultery with the betrothed maiden. She is subject to stoning. The Gemara objects to Rabbi Yochanan's ruling. They challenge this from a brisa. Rabbi Meir would say that even the idolater, of course, this is not that idolater. This is a nokri. This is a goyim. This is a actual misprint according to the Ben Ish Hai, who engrosses himself in Torah study is worthy of respect like a Kohen Gadol. For it is stated about the laws of Torah that man, Adam, should keep them and live by them. Now, Adam is Israel, right? Adam is also all humanity. That's why striking another person goes both ways, whether it's a Jew or whether it's another person. For it is not stated, it does not state Kohanim, Levim, Israelim, rather man. You have thus learned that even an idolater who engrosses himself in Torah study is likened to a Kohen Gadol. So let's take a look a little bit at this piece on page 58b4 from the Ben Ish Hai about the land ownership and what's happening. Okay, so most people look at the story of Noah as recreation. It's a recreation story. They never look at it as death, right? They never look at the story of the Torah falling from Torah A at Sinai and the golden calf to Torah B as a death. They never look at it that way. So the word for ark in Hebrew is aron. Aron is the same word for casket. Okay? So what is Noah's ark? It was the casket of the death of that Adamic thing that once 3D was removed, once that 3D of that dispensation was removed, everything blossomed back again. The next level. Same thing with the ark, where the Torah was put in. All right. So the Torah fell. It had to fall too, and it's put in its own ark. So just as the Levites carry the ark, so too do pallbearers carry the ark. So when you pass, you are in your ark. That's where you want to be, because the ark gets to go into the earth. That's Noah's ark goes into the earth. That is the nukva. So think of it in human reproductive manner. When the male seed is traveling along and it comes to the round ovum, that's the earth, and here is your aron. When it hits into that ovum, it dies and decays. But its DNA, its holy signature now gets implanted, and now a whole new thing is made. Olam haba. That's why everybody is going to be put in the earth. That is when your true seed gets planted, and now it will blossom olam haba. That's what it's all about. This world is the tohu. This world is only the vessel, and you are the seed. Just like in Genesis, he made the vessel first, and then he made the seed, and then he watered it, and the spirit of Elohim hovered over it. And that's the olam haba, recreation. All right. So, just as your final destination is your beginning. It's not your end. It is the real beginning of the real you. All right. So let's look at this piece. I will read it again. The Gemara represents another lesson on 58b4. If you're following along, Rabbi Eliezer said, "Land ownership was giving only to the mighty people, for it is stated, to the mighty men of the earth." All right. So here's what the Ben Ish Hai has to say. Land ownership was giving only to mighty people. This will be explained below with help from heaven. The intention and the meaning is the land is given for burial. This entire earth, that's its purpose. Not to, seed time and harvest, feed you, apples, pears, peaches, pecans, whatever. But it's still, the earth goes through its own death cycle every year. We're in it right now, in the winter. Because they bury in the earth, in the land. He's talking about the goyim. They do not put them in a aron, in a casket, like they do in Eretz Israel. Only, except through the learning and study of Bina, only through understanding and the moral ethics, the musar of mighty people. These are the robbers and the scoundrels who know that at the end, they will take out and they will be brought out and they will regurgitate everything that they have swallowed. What the Ben Ish Hai is saying is all the shefa that has been taken from we'll just say Israel, from all the nitzots that the Nakash, the Acharim have taken, they will have to vomit, it literally says. They will have to regurgitate. They will have to vomit all these sparks up because they have stolen it. This is their spoil from their own mouths, even after their death. Now, he gives us an agadic story, and also Hofetz Haim uses these two people, Reuben and Simeon, these two brothers or whatever, or these uncles, and they use this in the stories to tell an agadic story to give you a higher truth. So here's what he says. There was a tale of two brothers, Reuben and Shimon, who resided together. One day, Reuben stole 100 gold coins from Shimon, his brother. At that time, Reuben himself was rich, as he had 10,000 gold coins, monies from his uncles. Now, always think Adam and Anakash, and the story will start making sense. And thus, through this remiss, through this illusion of Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, the first four letters of the Hebrew alphabet was fulfilled in him. Because the Aleph is Emunah. The Bet is the Bracha, the blessing. And the Gimel is Neva, theft. And the Dalet is Dalut, poverty. Which through this theft, poverty was fulfilled in him, because he lost his wealth, and he had nothing left except for 200 gold coins. And Shimon, who was robbed, died. And his son Levi dwelled with his uncle in the same house, which belonged to them both. One day, Reuben heard that there was a kind of merchandise in a particular city distant far away, and that if he brought to this city, there would be a profit of 50 gold coins to 100 gold coins in it. And he counseled in his heart to take the full amount of 200 gold coins and to buy merchandise with them and to sell in this city and to make profit of 100 gold coins from it. He would carry these gold coins in a belt that they were sewn into it. And he wore this belt on his body under his garment. Then he put another belt over his garment. He rode upon his animal, and he went with a convoy that was going way into the desert. And here, in the middle of his journey, he was riding his animal, and he needed to take care of his needs. He needed to go to the bathroom. And the convoy continued. He jumped off his animal and went and sat down in the papyrus in the desert, as the desert was full of papyrus. And it wasn't a straight road. And he went down into the papyrus to take care of his needs. But the way which he took care of his needs was that his belt was superfluous, because it was fastened so. Therefore, he needed to release the inner belt, which had the gold coins sewed onto it. After he had taken care of his needs, he forgot to put his belt with the gold coins back on, because in his great haste, he wanted to follow the convoy. So he had only to put on the outer belt. He followed after the convoy, and he reached it with a lot of effort and toil. After 3 hours, the convoy rested. So too, he got off his animal and rested. As he was sitting, he sensed and felt that the inner belt was not there, that he had forgotten it in the papyrus, and he despaired of it, because it was a desert with lots of papyrus. You can let your Kabbalistic minds run rampant here. For 2 hours duration, everywhere was full of papyrus, more than 1,000 thousands more papyrus. And he did not know which papyrus plant and where he had sat. And who could recognize it after in this desolate desert? So out of necessity, he went to the city with the convoy. And after a day, he found the convoy which was returning. So he returned to the city with them. And the son of his brother knew that his uncle had gone to buy merchandise from this city, which had much profit in it. And also, after 10 days, there's your 10. After 10 days, the nephew found a convoy going there. So he took some coins with him to bring back some of the merchandise to sell in the city, that he got from the city. When the convoy approached the same place where his uncle had taken care of his needs, he also needed to take care of his needs. So he got off his animal to take care of his needs in the papyrus. And it was a precious occurrence that happened when he came to take care of his needs in that same papyrus, as there was his uncle's belt with the gold coins. And he took it and found that it had 200 gold coins on it. And he did not know that it was his uncle's. He went to the city and he brought merchandise and he bought merchandise for 400 gold coins. 200 gold coins were his, and 200 were from the find in the windfall. He brought the merchandise to the city, and he made a profit on it of 200 gold coins, from 50 to 100. His uncle had already returned before him, and when he saw that his nephew had brought back the merchandise for the sum of 400 gold coins, he knew that his nephew didn't have this large fund. And he said to him, "Where did you get this fund?" And according to his innocence, his nephew told him that in the middle of his journey, he had to take care of his needs. So he went down to the papyrus to take care of his needs, and he found a kind of a belt there with 200 gold coins stitched in it, and that made a fund of 400 gold coins in his possession. His uncle said to him, "These are the 200 gold coins. That wasn't a fine windfall on the journey. They came to you. They are yours. They are your money." And the nephew said to him, "What is this manner you're talking about? Is it not a windfall that I found them?" Then he told his nephew that he had stolen 100 gold coins from his father while he was alive. And according to the law, he was obligated to pay back double, 200 coins. "So I was obligated to you 200 coins. And these were the 200 gold coins which were mine, and you were guided to them in the papyrus, as I took care of my needs there. And the papyrus was cloaked and covered it for you, because you took care of your needs there." We find that the uncle regurgitated the gold coins, which he took when he took care of his needs. And the nephew swallowed or absorbed the gold coins when he took care of his needs. And everything was by way of the providence of heaven, in order that he, the uncle, would know that this gives birth to that. But this was the misfortune. When he stole the 100 gold coins, because he was formerly wealthy, as he had 10,000 gold coins, which were the 100 gold coins which he considered to be worth only 100 denarii of silver in his possession. But now he had to pay them back, and they were regurgitated. And he had no more gold coins left. And these 200 coins considered to him as worth more than now the 10,000 gold coins which he had. But the tzaddik, the righteous one, is Hashem, because the uncle's words were rebellious against Hashem. And the judgment, the law, is not carried out if there is no judge. And this is the explanation of the robbing and the thief. It is necessary to consider that there will be no profit whatsoever from a thief, but 10 times the loss or suffering through it. For a man, by necessity, compulsion, will return the theft to its owner times double. And if he has not returned it in this lifetime, he will return it in the next, after his death, like it did in the story. As mentioned previously, because at the time of the man Reuben stole the 100 gold coins, he had considered them only worth 100 silver denarii. And the man whom they returned to, i.e. the owner, considered them as if they were worth 10,000 gold coins in his possession. In this example, we find in the manner that Adam Harishon, that the Kodesh Baruch Hu said to him that after he sinned and robbed the tree and stole the tree of knowledge and stole and took it without permission, that he, Hashem, considered it in the category of robbery and stolen goods. And that it says in the Gemara before us, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says to him, "For you are but dust, and dust you shall return," in Genesis 3:19. Now remember, when Jacob is wrestling with Esau in Hulin, where it says, "Behei avko," that the word wrestled really means kicking up dust, fighting. The Nakash hitting Adam, Ham hitting Noah, on and on and on and on. The Goyim are still hitting the Jews. It's called anti-Semitism because this Lashon Hara is the raising of the hand, and you will do it. It is as if you have struck the Holy One in his face. This is, they're all tied to one thing. So, what did Antonina say? If I could just, Rebbe, if I could just be the dust mat beneath your feet, right? This Adam was made from the dust, because once the theft happened, all those 7 laws are connected to that theft. We learned that the 7 laws fix Nekudim. We've learned that the 7 laws protect you against the 7 names of the Sitra Achra and the evil inclination. All is one thing. So the dust that your body becomes repays, is the debt repaid. And the soul then becomes the gold, the purified gold of Atzilut. And our rabbis of blessed memory said in Breshis Rabbah 20:10, thus he said to him, "Is not the handful of dust whence you were created as unlawful spoil in your possession, that you must give back to the earth?" Who created Adam? Who took the dust? Hold on to that loosely. It will be returned to its place in burial. For after he sinned, his body, the goof, we find a portion of the dust in his body was the stolen possession. Because Hashem, Yitzbarak, didn't take him from the dust except for the sake that he would do the will of Hashem, Yitzbarak, and not sin. But we find that there is a portion of dust in his body, in the goof, that was robbed and stolen from his possession. Therefore, it will be returned to the grave, because that's where it came from. And this is literally like the matter in the tale, that he, the uncle, returned the money double, according to the law, to its owner, but only that he would, but not only that he took 100 gold coins worth 100 denarii of silver in his possession, but he repaid 200 gold coins that were worth the 10,000 gold coins that he originally had in his possession. So with Adam Harishon, who was taken from the dust of the earth, and when he is returned to the grave, its return is natural and fitting, and it is good, and it is precious. And this is what is written: land was given only to the children of Adam for burial, because they do not lay them in a casket. They bury them in the dirt. He's talking about the Nokri. But with the mighty people, they are the robbers and the scoundrels. And learn this, studying Bina, with understanding, with insight, and with wisdom, knowing. When it happened to Adam HaRishon in the matter of, for your dust you are, and dust you shall return, thus it happened through theft, because the money will always return to its owner doubled. And the Torah is amazing, and the sages are amazing, and hopefully next week we will wrap up the secrets of the 7 laws, and I'll see you then.